And welcome back to Girl Chat Sports. We are on episode 30. Can you believe it?
Episode 30, it's a milestone.
I know. Hi, welcome back. I'm Melissa with Girl Chat Sports, and of course with me is the wonderful Stephanie.
Hi, everyone.
So, just real quick, before we get started, so we've got some great stuff coming up today. We're going to talk, of course, about the Seahawks and the Cowboys, our two favorite teams. Well, of course, my favorite team, Steph's favorite team. We'll talk a little about some fantasy football. We'll talk about my Huskies, the World Series, of course. We're going to obviously have some arms of the NFL, and we're going to talk basketball as well as a couple ooh and ah moments that we have found over the last week. But I just wanted to start off today with episode 30. So we've been doing the podcast now, audio, for 10 episodes. I think, Steph, you've been here for like 8 now. And this has been quite a journey for Girl Chat Sports. As you know, last year we started as kind of like a video podcast, me and Jamie, and it went pretty well. We kind of had a great response. The video podcast part was just kind of hard to keep putting up with. So I chose to go out on my own with Jamie's blessing, of course, and start the audio part. And, it has its struggles. I think what the main thing for Girl Chat Sports was to have a place where women could talk about sports, where we could share ideas, where other women and, of course, guys could listen to us and to kind of hear about us and how we think about sports beyond just, the color of the uniforms and the asses or the arms of the NFL, that kind of stuff. Actually knowing that we know some things about football and to share it with other women out there, because I noticed a lot more women these days are more sports oriented and seem to be more engaged with football and sports itself. So it's been kind of a long road. I'm still pushing. I love Girl Chat. I love what it represents, having a place where we can talk sports every week, where we can, I'm watching football every weekend anyways, if I'm not already at a football game, or watching basketball, doing my fantasy basketball, that kind of stuff. So it's nice to have a place to come and talk about it. It does require more than usual. I mean, both you and I work full time. We both have regular jobs. This is kind of what we do out of our spare time for fun. So I just wanted to say thank you for those that do support us, who have liked our pages, who have shared our videos or our audios, and thank you, and hopefully you'll stick around for more. We hope for bigger and better things. We definitely want to get interviews started here soon, and once hopefully, because the holidays get through, we'll be able to kick into some new equipment and get some interviews going, because I know I've got a couple lined up that I really want to do.
Yeah, I was a fan of the show prior to joining you, and I'm happy to be here.
I know, and I love that you are here, because I love being able to talk with someone about sports who has the same passion about their team as I have about mine. And it's also a camaraderie, even though we both have different teams that we are passionate for, we kind of have this bond that, we can always talk smack, we can talk shit about sports, and it's okay. I think sometimes when you talk with guys, they get all personal and they get all their butts hurt because a woman knows something, wherein it's just nice to be able to, express ourselves with other women in regards to sports and some of the things we do. So enough of the ushy mushy episode 30 stuff. We'll get into it. You want to start off with your Cowboys?
Yeah, so the Cowboys are 7-1.
I cannot believe that. They lead the NFC right now.
We're
number
2 in the country, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so there's so many records that are being broken by Prescott and Elliott. They both set a franchise record for producing at least 400 total net yards in 6 straight games. Prescott is the second rookie in NFL history to win 7 of his first 8 games. He's also matched his career high with 3 touchdown passes, tying for the record of the most wins by a rookie quarterback in a single season, which Roethlisberger set a dozen years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's also done quite a few other rookie records, with his 10th touchdown pass for the season, which he would later make it to 12. Prescott broke Troy Aikman's franchise record for the most touchdown passes by a rookie.
He is pretty amazing. And I will say this, like I've mentioned before, I know you posted this meme the other day, and it was like Dak and Zeke, and they were on the sideline together, and they were like, any other bandwagon, or what was I think it was any other fans out there want to, join the bandwagon or something. And I'm like, I'm a Cowboys hater through and through, but those two, I just love them. I love those two, and I wish them all the best. I know what's funny is that the NFL's best-selling jerseys rookies. Ezekiel Elliott is number 1. Carson Wentz is number 2, and then Dak Prescott comes in at number 5. But those are 3 rookies in the top 5 NFL selling jerseys.
That's awesome. They have such a great camaraderie with one another too. I was reading this article that when they travel and whatnot, they always room together, so they are pretty good buddies too.
Aww.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that I know if you guys have listened to our podcast before that we mentioned Dak. We mentioned Dak texting his mom, even though his mom has passed away. Well, that story was huge this last week, and I was like, we kind of already covered it. It was pretty funny that we had already noticed that. That was one of our awe moments, I believe. I think it was episode 28, and just to see that now that it was all being covered by big on the media, it's just Dak is a really good guy, and I really hope that he has his roots cemented and kind of like this good boy, old-fashioned values type thing, and that the lights and the shine don't take too much away from him.
Yeah, he's a good guy for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then Elliott joined elite company as the 3rd player in league history with at least 875 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns in his first 8 games. Pretty epic.
Yeah. So what was funny is that you guys had played Cleveland and ran. Well, here's what it is. When I first started watching the game, Cody Kessler was playing for the Browns and threw a pass. I think it was to Terrell Pryor, and it was a touchdown. And I was like, oh my god, like the Browns scored, but B, I was like, oh my, maybe they're gonna be the team that gives Cowboys their first loss with Dak Prescott, and clearly that was not the case.
Nope. Even Witten had a good game. He had 8 catches for 137 yards and a touchdown, so that certainly was good for him, since it appears that for the rest of the season so far, he's had 290 yards, so that was a pretty good game for him.
Yeah, they were 35-10, and what I thought was hilarious is that some of my friends that had Dak maybe for fantasy purposes were mad because they actually put Mark Sanchez in towards the end of the game, and I was like, the game has gone bad when Mark Sanchez gets the opportunity to play.
You know what actually happened is that I go to this Cowboys bar, which is Red Label, if anybody's interested in coming and watching.
And where's Red Label at?
It's on Sahara between I-15 and Las Vegas Boulevard. It is a Cowboys club. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys Club Elite. But we're watching the game in the bar, and then I guess Fox thought it was such a blowout that they decided to switch the game that they were broadcasting. It was the Giants-Eagles game.
Ooh,
we're all in the bar pissed that they're showing the Giants-Eagles game. We ended up finding it and then coming back to Sanchez.
I mean, you would think that as the token Cowboys bar that they would have that they would definitely have that game on, whether it be like the ticket or NFL whatever package you have. I know for me at the Seahawkers bar, Las Vegas Seahawkers, shout out, over at Scooters on Rainbow and 215, the game is on no matter what. So when your game's not on like regular TV, they always still have it. They don't change it.
They ended up finding it. It was very difficult, and they worked very diligently. It didn't take too long,
Didn't
but
take
we
too
did
long.
end up finding it again.
That's
Another
hilarious.
bad Cowboys news. Did you hear about Greg Hardy?
You guys I think you guys love Greg Hardy so much.
I think we love drama so much. It seems like we kind of take the ragtag.
Maybe Jerry just brings drama with him.
It's sad. But
Tell me
anyway,
about
he
Greg.
was indicted on felony cocaine possession, so he could face at least 180 days and up to 2 years in prison if convicted.
That's so crazy. It's like, Aaron Hernandez. Well, his was a little more serious, I guess, of course. But like, how do you go from making good money, like great money for doing something that you're talented at, and then next thing you know, like either you're in jail or you're facing jail or prison time? It's like reality check.
Fall
Hi
from
guys.
grace.
Well, enough about all of the Cowboys stuff. Let's move on to the Seahawks and Monday Night Football.
What a game.
So, of course, I think it's like either we're stressfully losing a game or we're stressfully getting the refs engaged in some conspiracy theory type situations. Obviously, we had the Atlanta game earlier this year. We've had previous games with the Vikings, with the Packers. Monday Night Football was nothing different with the Bills. We had them at home at CenturyLink, so of course our fans were psyched. The last couple of years we've been kind of given the cold shoulder when it comes to Monday Night Football games. We haven't had one for a while. This was our 11th Monday Night Football game. We actually had won 10 in a row previously. We made 11 come Monday. But there was a couple good points that we'll point out. So Jimmy Graham came back with a vengeance. He had 2 touchdowns, and mind you, they were one-handed touchdowns. Like, you thought Odell Beckham had some abilities. Well, Mr. Graham does too. Maybe it's all that like handwork with piloting his airplanes or something. Right. I don't know. But he had caught 2 touchdowns with his one hand. He totaled, I think, 103 yards total. Bobby Wagner, huge for our defense. He actually put up 16 tackles all by himself. And Russell, it was so nice to have Russell back and appeared to be at least 95% healthy. He kept on claiming being 100% healthy, but previously these last like 3 or 4 games, it's clear he wasn't. This game, he actually rushed for a 3-yard touchdown. It was the first touchdown that was scored by our team since October 2nd.
Yikes.
Right. And so then he also passed for touchdowns, and he had like 292 yards, which was really good to have Russell kind of back. He's not all the way back, but it was good to have him engaged. It's good to have him finding targets, all that kind of good stuff.
He looked good.
He did look good. So here's the things that are coming into question. So there was a kick by Dan Carpenter, who I believe is like an Emmy-nominated actor, kind of Karl Malone-esque, I guess you could say. His flops are like none other. Maybe even like, what was his name? The other anyways. Long story. So basically, he's going for a field goal, and Sherman ran after him and basically took him out. So the issue was, and Rex Ryan went off. I don't know if you saw the game, but Rex Ryan, you could read his mouth, and all it was a bunch of F you, and
on
it was
TV,
on national TV. It wasn't like F you; it was literally the FUCKYOU. I won't say it because if my mom listens to the podcast, she hates that word. So he said that over and over and over again. So they wanted basically a roughing the passer call, which they didn't get. What happened was, and which I'm sure you'll argue for, is that definitely Sherman did appear to take out Dan Carpenter.
Appear to take him out.
However, when you look at some of the pictures that even Sherman posted, or that some of the other people on social media did post, he did touch the ball. Granted, he was in the way of the kick, but like Sherman says, I was playing to the whistle. Just so the whistle took place when he was in midair, and he did have a hand on the ball, so he did go after the ball. So there is some kind of debate as to if that was really roughing the passer. Immediately after the game, immediately during the game, actually, some of the referees were discussing that it should have been a roughing the kicker call, and that the whistle should have been blown. That it should have been a dead ball. It should have been a roughing a kicker. So.
I was really confused on what was going on. I didn't understand why Dan Carpenter had to go out and then.
Dan Carpenter. Well, here's the other thing. Dan Carpenter was kicking with one leg, correct? And that's the leg that got hit. However, when he went down and grabbed a leg, it was the other leg. So that also seemed a little suspicious. That one leg got hit by Sherman, but the other one you're falling down with holding. And so what happened was the medical team came on the field thinking he was actually injured because he was faking the shit out of that. Thought he was injured, came to help him. When the medical team comes on, that person that they're trying to help has to be off for the next play. So that being that he's the kicker and they only have that play to go, luckily for the Bills, it was only, I think, second down when they were taking the kick, so they were able to basically hike the ball real quick to let one play pass and then come back on the field to kick the ball again.
Everybody seemed confused. Even the players weren't sure what to do next.
Well, they thought they were getting off the field. They thought, it
was the end of the half.
Yeah, they thought the halftime was over. So that was the first one. And may I just speak on behalf of women, period. I would just like to shout out Mr. Dan Carpenter's wife, who I don't even know her name, because honestly, she's worth nothing of a breath to me. The way she immediately went on Twitter and said, had basically had a picture of like, I don't know what, I guess
some kind of castration
tool for the farm, because apparently she was raised on one and probably in a barn for all that I matter. And basically put on Twitter in I quote, I know what we do to animals on the farm when males can't control their rage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically she was implying that she needed to cut off Sherman's balls. A, he wasn't in rage. First of all, he's playing a game which he's pretty damn good at. And second of all, why do we have to go there? Why does it have to be chopping your balls off?
Yeah, well, I guess a wife trying to defend her husband
When your
went a little
husband
too
was
far.
faking it on national TV.
Come on, think of Steph Curry's wife. Women do that for their husbands.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't think Steph Curry would do something, or Aisha Curry would do something like that. Maybe, remember that one wife from the Miami football I can't remember the guy, the football player, but his wife, or his girlfriend, I think, was always tweeting some inappropriate stuff for the Dolphins, and I think she actually got a talking to here or there. Anyways, so that was the first issue. The second issue came at the end of the game because Seattle was up. I think we ended up winning, what was it, by 5 points or 3 points? I can't remember. And the Bills needed a touchdown. And literally with 13 seconds left, we stopped them at 4th and goal. They had, the 4 chances to sit. They had ran down the field with a minute and a half left. They get in field goal position, or they get in goal position, and through 4 downs, they couldn't get it. Well, that 4th down, you can see Sherman clearly in the end zone, and he basically had a hard hit, and I believe it was on Robert Woods of the Bills, which basically flatlined him and left there to be nobody in the end zone. Well, there was a huge issue on why that wasn't called as either a PI or a pass interference or a personal foul, but I guess there was some kind of ruling in regards to once the quarterback runs out of the box, that basically all players downfield basically can be knocked down. So Chris Carter had talked about it. It basically was discussed on SB Nation. So it was an interesting point that a lot of people are overlooking, that it is actually legal. But of course, everybody wants to gripe because it is the Seahawks, and we have had some, I guess, questionable calls at home.
Let's talk about the officiating on this game.
Okay.
I thought we had this conversation last week that Cam spoke to Goodell about all these calls that are not being called, and it's strange to me that the very next week, once again, the officiating is not so wonderful.
No.
So apparently, Sean Payton said that the NFL should hire full-time refs, and I guess that it's being debated on whether that would do them any good or not. They said that most of the best officials in the NFL would quit if they had to do it as a full-time job.
Because they're basically it's basically like a on-call type of position, or it's not like a full-time job, correct?
Yeah, well, they're saying that there isn't enough work to do all week and all off-season to justify having it be a full-time job. So I don't know if that's
so.
Really
Do some
happen.
of these guys work other jobs? That's my question.
Well, they must, because football season isn't very long. I don't know. They said that it doesn't seem as though the officials who are doing the job now could do any better if they did it full time.
Interesting. On that note, too, real quick before we go to our commercial break, it was funny after you mentioned the Cam Newton and Roger Goodell discussions. In the game over the weekend, Cam got hit really hard again. I don't know if you saw it, and I can't remember who it was that hit him, but he got slammed. And I was just like, ooh, so much for that conversation, I guess. So anyways, we're going to take a little commercial break. Shout out to the guys at End the Zone Show and End the Zone Network out in St. Louis and all of the affiliates through New England, Seattle, and Philadelphia. We'll be right back with some more football news as well as the rest of the sports that are going on, and discuss a little bit of the World Series as well. All right.
This is Melantha Witherspoon with Take a Trip Travel, and we love to plan family vacations, honeymoons, girlfriend getaways, with a great deal of experience with group travel and destination weddings. We can be reached at 314-369-7025 or taketriptravel@gmail.com. That is taketriptravel@gmail.com.
Hey guys, welcome back. And once again, shout out again to Take a Trip Travel and our guys over at End the Zone Show in St. Louis. We appreciate you, Palmer Alexander and Arlington Lane. Thank you. So real quick to start up the NFL, the Vikings lost again.
Man, they were on a roll.
That's 3 straight games for the Vikings. They actually got beat by the Lions in overtime.
Well, I mean, I think that has a lot to do with Blair Walsh at this point. His job is seriously on the line. They are literally trying out replacement kickers right now. And I know that this late into the season it might be a little difficult, and maybe that's just to threaten him a little bit to move. But he's missed 4 field goals and 3 extra points this season so far.
And let's not forget the field goal from last season to get them at the playoffs against Seattle in frigid temperatures.
This game on Sunday, he missed an extra point, and that was costly when it was decided in overtime.
Oh, it's so crazy.
And he even had a field goal blocked in the 4th quarter. So Blair Walsh.
Well, the Lions kicker Matt Prater sure did do his duty and hit a 58-yard field goal, which brought them into overtime. And it was surprising to me because I know I have this love-hate relationship with Golden Tate. You know, he left Seattle, went on to Detroit, did really good for like the first season, last season, and this season was pretty crappy up until just like literally the Sunday. So he had 28. He had a 20-yard touchdown catch in the overtime win. So I don't know. I guess the Lions could be coming back a little bit. But 3 straight losses is not good for the Vikings, but it does help my Seahawks, so I can't complain. Into the AFC, the Steelers basically were shut out by the Ravens in the first half, 10-0, for the first time in 43 years. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Shut out in the first half. The final was actually 21-14. Ben is back. And so, but what's crazy is as a fantasy person, I had Ben in a couple of my leagues. One, I had already played somebody, so I couldn't think about that. But Ben, he did not get announced as the starter or that he would actually be playing and being the starter until 8:40 a.m. So literally I had to wake up a couple times during the middle of the night as well as early in the morning before game started to ensure that my fantasy lineup was okay. And he actually pulled through. Even though he was still struggling a little bit, he still made my fantasy points. I got like 44 points from him. He had 264 passing yards and a touchdown, so that was nice.
Did you see the lamest onside kick attempt in history? Chris Boswell apparently was trying to use this sleight of foot maneuver called the Rabona.
The what? There's actually
Rabona,
a name for it?
I think. Yeah, so apparently he did one successfully in college. Not this time. So he was actually flagged for illegally kicking the ball, and the Ravens
And then I don't know if you guys out there saw it, but it was like he was Irish river dancing. Like he went to fake kick with one leg, but kick with the other underneath, and it ended up just like barely.
Inches.
It literally went like 2 inches, like a putt, like he was putting a football.
It was rather funny.
It was really bad, actually. So, other than that, there is some other news in regards. You know, we here in Las Vegas, we're still keeping our fingers crossed for the Raiders moving here for football. But there was an interesting thing. We haven't really mentioned it yet in the podcast, but as you all are aware of, last night was election night. I know for me, it was a really hard day for me today. I can't believe that the person who was a host of a reality TV show and has no political backing is now the president of the United States. Not even getting started on his wife. However, and how that she would be the first lady. But also with part of that election is some of the, the state bills that get passed and stuff. And the state things that get voted on or rejected. So in San Diego, the Chargers, I believe, had some kind of a bill or some kind of something that was
funding for a new stadium, yeah.
Right. And what happened?
And so the people of San Diego voted against getting this new stadium funded. So their other options are, at this point, is to pay for the stadium themselves, search for an alternative site in San Diego, or move to LA. I guess the Chargers still have several years on their lease at Qualcomm, but they also do have the option to move to a new stadium that's being built by the Rams owner. That'll be in Inglewood. I guess that last and final option, they have until the second week of January to decide to do that. So I feel like that's going to be a little helpful to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, hopefully it can kind of take some of the pressure and media and everything off of the Raiders move, and hopefully they can just figure out, because here's the deal, if you got what's crazy is that all 4 California teams played on Sunday in California. It was like this huge football Sunday. So you had the Rams playing at home, the Chargers played at home, the Niners played at home, Oakland played at home. So it's kind of crazy. But anyways, I'm hoping that, I just don't see how I guess, the Lakers and the Clippers, they share the same Coliseum. I don't know how the Chargers and the Rams sharing the same stadium still benefits anybody, really. But, hey, not my players, not my team.
Speaking of the Raiders, they're now 7-2.
So what's funny is that there's big talk about the Cowboys and the Raiders being in the Super Bowl together.
So I heard that the Cowboys have a 32% chance of making it to the Super Bowl.
32% chance. Well, coming to the NFL power rankings, we've got the Patriots in first, Cowboys are second, Raiders are third, my Seahawks are still fourth, and Falcons running up the top 5. So that's pretty interesting. We'll see how that plays out with the NFL. Of course, with fantasy football, you guys know me. I've got 3 teams. All of them are doing kind of crappy. And one, I think I'm actually over 500. The other 2, I'm under. But I did win all 3 of my teams this last weekend, mainly because of Frank Gore, who had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Melvin Gordon. He had 196 rushing yards for the San Diego Chargers. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount. We're happy if a running back can have 100 rushing yards and maybe a touchdown. He had 196. Latavius Murray for the Raiders, he had 114. That guy is a beast. Did you see? I don't know if you watched him play, but it's ridiculous. 127 totals. He had 3 touchdowns. One player that we all saw against the Seahawks, LaShawn McCoy, who we really couldn't even stop very well, had 85 rushing yards.
Shady.
Right? And, again, Robert Woods, the guy that Sherman blocked in the end zone, he had 162 yards. He had projected for 9 points, and he got 21 points. I actually had him on my roster once before and then dropped him. But anyways, regarding fantasy football, I just want to touch base real quick for those that do play or maybe want to know more about it. A key term to know is bye weeks, and bye weeks are very, very serious. So when you start your drafting early, in that August, September, right before the season starts, it's always good to be mindful of when your players have their bye week, because if you draft 8 players and 5, or you draft 10 players and 5 of them have bye week 8, you're kind of screwed, and you're going to have to start working on the waiver wires and making substitutions and possibly having to drop somebody that's really good just to make you having a full lineup. I have actually played against someone yesterday in my women's league who still had a player in there that had a bye week because she couldn't really sub anybody, and she didn't want to drop that person out either. So this last week, week 9, which we just went through, we had 6 teams on bye week: Cardinals, Bears, Bengals, Patriots, Texans, and Redskins. That was like the largest amount of teams that you'll find usually in one bye week. But what's kind of crazy is that this coming up weekend, week 10, there's only 4 teams, but they have some major fantasy power. So you've got the Bills, the Lions, the Colts, and the Raiders. LaShawn McCoy is part of that. Stafford is part of that. Frank Gore is part of that. Latavius Murray is part of that. Derek Carr and Tyrod Taylor, all part of that bye week. So those are all players that you won't be able to play. So just to keep that in mind and be mindful of that, you know what I mean? And moving right along to college football. So last week, and the top 5 included Texas A&M took on the 4th spot and moved Washington, my Huskies, to the 5th spot because basically they had a tougher schedule. They still had a loss, even though the rest of the Alabama and Clemson and Washington all have undefeated teams. They moved them. And what happened last weekend? Well, go ahead.
Well, actually, the quarterback of Texas A&M got a shoulder injury, and I guess he's going to miss the remainder of the season.
Oh, wow.
They also have an offensive tackle, Trevor Elbert, who hasn't even really played this season, but apparently had a career-ending surgery. So that doesn't sound good for them.
So, yeah, that Mississippi game, Texas A&M lost to Mississippi. Which I think everybody on College GameDay and throughout ESPN and most other sports football avenues all were like, well, why did they even put Texas A&M in there to begin with? Because clearly they weren't ready for that top 4 spot. So currently, now that the Huskies took Cal home, basically, they scored 66 points in this game, which was amazing. I love my Huskies. Browning had 6 touchdowns. This is his 2nd game with 6 touchdowns this season, which is ridiculous, and he had 0 interceptions. Can I just tell you about our wide receivers, Ross and Pettis? They have ridiculously great games. Both these guys are some wide receiving fools, and I'm so glad they're on our team. So one little tidbit of info. So Browning is a possible Heisman candidate. He's our quarterback. He's on pace to break the FBS record, which basically is percentages of passes to touchdown attempts. So the record is 11.6%, and he's currently at a pace of 16%. So that's kind of a really cool little stat, which, I don't do stats too well, but that one I do love. So I'm excited for that.
Ohio State is still hanging in there as the highest ranked one-loss team.
They are number 5, right? Yeah. So we've got Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Washington, and Ohio. The last 5 would be like Louisville, Wisconsin. Texas A&M is now in 8th, and then we've got Auburn and Penn State as well. So this should be an interesting time for college football. We're coming close to Thanksgiving. We're going to be getting close to those interstate rivalries. I know the Apple Cup for the Huskies and Cougars is coming up weekend after Thanksgiving or of Thanksgiving. It's a huge game in Washington. It's actually going to be playing in Pullman this year, and it really is going to tell a lot about our teams. I know if the Washington State beats us, that's a big problem. We probably won't be able to go into the playoffs. If we win, we're in the playoffs, of course. Well, let me not get ahead of myself because we do play this weekend. USC is coming to Seattle, and so is College GameDay. Little fun fact, I'm actually going to be in Seattle this weekend. I fly in right before the game starts. And I've been contemplating, do I go to the game? Here's the deal. I was in New Orleans when the Seahawks lost.
Right.
I was in LA at the Rams game when the Seahawks lost.
Right.
So I don't know for a fact if I can actually count on myself to be helpful. And I don't want to be I don't want to be that person that causes the guys to lose. And I really wanted to be at College GameDay. We never had one when I was in school at school, so I just wanted to be in the background holding a crazy sign, acting crazy. But yeah, I think I might just go to a bar at
watch it from a safe distance.
Watch it from the Ram in the U District or something. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, so shout out to the Huskies. I will be rooting for you. I'll be wearing my purple and gold. I just most likely won't be in attendance. Moving along, World Series finished up right after our podcast last week.
Yeah, what a game. Rain delay.
I mean, the Cubs win and come back from a 3-1 deficit.
Yeah, well, you know what? The Cubs are actually giving credit to their president of baseball operations, Theo Epstein. Apparently, he's the main architect behind the team becoming who they are. Him and his front office built that roster through many different means in savvy string trades since he's been around since 2011. So there's little chance that he could have achieved his goal so quickly if he didn't make the moves that he made.
Seriously. And can I just tell you that they had 5 million people in attendance for their parade. Here's the deal. Cleveland, when they won their championship, because they had the hugest drought for basketball or in, I guess, championships, period, they had 2 million. Chicago had 5 million people in the streets.
This is literally the 7th largest gathering ever, and the first largest gathering that was actually in the United States.
That is so crazy. I can't even believe it. So.
I talked to a couple customers from that area, and they said their bosses told them not to come in. School was closed, so everybody was pretty much there.
It was awesome, which leads me to my moment. There was a story about this guy who, I can't remember where he drove from, but his father, they had been Cubs fans their entire lives, obviously. Indiana. And the gentleman, I want to say, is middle-aged now. He was in his 50s, I would say. And he actually went to his father's gravesite because he had passed many years ago, but he always knew that whenever this day came, he wanted to share it with his father. So he actually, and there's a lot of news media there too, so it seemed like it kind of been a pre-planned event, but he went for Game 7, drove all the way to Indiana, or drove from Indiana all the way to his father's gravesite, and basically sat there the entire game with his radio. He even had the W towel in the back of his chair, and listened to the game with his father at his gravesite, which I thought was really cute.
It is sweet.
I love that. So that was my awe moment, which tied into that. So real quick on NBA. So your Lakers.
Yeah, man, we are finally winning some games. I don't know, this young squad is doing pretty decent. We're 4-4, and we had a 3-game winning streak, which it's been a while. Well, December.
Black Mamba?
Of last year. And we're at 500, so I'm feeling pretty happy and confident that we aren't one of the last teams in the NBA.
Well, and Philadelphia still sucks. I mean, they were completely terrible last year, and they're off to being 0-6 this year.
Yeah, Pelicans 0-8, so they're in good company.
That's terrible. But here's the deal: at least the Pelicans have Anthony Davis. I don't see how you can't even win one game with him. The Philadelphia 76ers, I mean, they don't have necessarily your star standout.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the Cavs fell. They used to be undefeated, and
Right.
they lost to the 5-2 Hawks on Tuesday.
So there's no more undefeated teams. Then,
No,
right?
and the LA Clippers sit right behind them in the second spot.
You know, I do like the Clippers. Only maybe just because I don't like the Lakers, so I gotta like somebody close by. But anyways, and Steph Curry's breaking records as
Yeah.
usual, huh?
Well, I will say that the game prior to him breaking a record, his record was broken. I believe it was 158 games over 2 years that he actually had a 3-point basket in, and when they played and lost to the Lakers, I might add, he did not hit a 3-point shot and make it.
I still can't believe that.
Yeah,
but
the following game he did break a record, 13
Awesome.
three-pointers in the games against the Pelicans.
Wow. So one little question mark moment that I had was part of the whole during the World Series, not to go back to baseball or anything, part of the whole series. So David Ross and the Cubs, they give each other high fives with their penises. Well, their dicks. So they do like this dick high five where they kind of just like dump and mash each other's crotches almost, like hands up. Yeah, it's so awkward and so weird. And it wasn't like just to one person. It was like he did that throughout the clubhouse on his way back from batting. It was just so it was
Very
so
strange.
odd. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't. Oh my gosh. Anything else we need to cover? Because I know it's getting close to time to cut out.
Yeah, we can't forget about Manny Pacquiao
That's right, your
fighting
guy,
over
the
the
Filipino
weekend.
pride.
Yeah, so your girl Swash is half Filipino, so of course
Yes.
Manny is our pride. He took some time away from his senator duties in the Philippines to train and come out of a little semi-retirement, and he fought against Vargas. And he, of course, won by decision. Indeed, we saw Mayweather in the audience. Who said that he was only there to bring his daughter to see it. However, I did hear that Manny invited him to come. So we
Like his
shall
daughter
see.
said, "Hey, Daddy, I want to go see Pacquiao fight." Like, really? Do you think that's what she was saying? She want to go like the roller skating rink or go to a movie or go shopping. She's
I'm
like,
just saying,
"Daddy, I want to go see Pacquiao fight."
there is enough money to be made by everyone for them to have a rematch.
That would be one awesome rematch. And it would probably be big for Vegas too, of course, amongst other things that happen out here.
Yeah, and in just other slight boxing news, John Jones once again is in trouble. John Bone Jones has officially been handed a 1-year suspension by the doping agency. It came into question that he came back positive for 2 banned substances. Which apparently he said he ingested the substances after taking a drug to enhance sexual performance.
Yeah, ever heard of Cialis? It was like the generic version of Cialis. Really? Really, John Jones? Because here's the deal. John Jones is a good-looking guy.
Yeah, he is.
Tall, dark, handsome. I mean, I definitely think he's a handsome guy. Do I need to mention that anymore? But the fact that he had to take Cialis is like, You kind of lost points for me, John. I don't know.
Nice cover.
Nice try.
Yeah, and then the Alvarez and McGregor fight is this weekend. So.
Awesome. So one other thing I thought was hilarious this weekend is that this mannequin challenge came about, and like everybody all over social media, all these football teams and other different sports teams are doing this mannequin challenge. Basically, you're standing completely still doing something crazy while someone is walking around filming the whole thing. Like basically, it's like a freeze tag. Everybody freeze. And they film it, and then they go back to doing like to a song. Well, the Cowboys had a good one.
On the plane.
After they won, they were on the plane, which was pretty funny. The Steelers had a good one. The Bills had one on the plane on the way to Seattle. Here's the deal. Don't do a mannequin challenge unless you're winning your game. So please do them after games because you look like an idiot doing it before, and then you just lose. So I just want to put that out there. Yeah. Without leaving you guys empty-handed, our arms of the NFL this week would go to Mr. Keenan Robinson. He's a linebacker for the Giants, number 57. Please go check him out. He used to play for Washington Redskins, but now with the Giants, again, number 57. Beautiful, beautiful, large arms. And also, wide receiver Quincy Enunwa. He's a wide receiver for the Jets, number 81. And why don't you take away our little TBT?
Of course, we cannot forget the arms of Emmitt Smith.
Dallas Cowboys running back. Good Lord. Anyway, so side note, our Armors of the NFLs that we've had previously, if you've been listening to the podcast, we've had Melvin Gordon, Crowell, Hayward Bay. All three of those guys have done extremely well in the past few weeks as well. So I think we may have some kind of maybe some kind of swing when it comes to these guys doing well. So maybe look out for a great game from NWA coming up this weekend, or perhaps even maybe the Giants, maybe Robinson's getting a few tackles this weekend. Who knows?
Sounds good to me.
Well, anyways, guys, that's our time. We appreciate you for coming and listening to our show on episode 30. Please find us on all social media at GirlChatSports. Please find us on YouTube. Search for GirlChatSports as well as SoundCloud and Podomatic. Find Stephanie. Where are you at?
S_wash.
And you can find me at Seattle, the number 4_life.
Thanks for your support.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for checking out another great episode of Girl Chat Sports. And remember, we don't have balls, but we know how to cover them. Until next time, guys.